Take a look at this. Kids bark like dogs to defend themselves from cats. Or this.
Now, have you thought of what animal you'd like to be if you end up alone?
Yes, a lobster.
A world where people turn into animals if they don't find their soulmates. It may seem weird, but these people have never questioned the rules of their world. Like it was just a norm. But as weird as it is to us, they can seem strangely familiar, too. These are the themes Yorgos Lanthimos explores in his films, and the truth is that he isn't weird or mad. We are.
We are a fucked species. Know it.
What initially appears bizarre begins to mirror our own reality in unsettling ways. Be it a group of siblings in Dogtooth who use alternative meanings for common words and believe that the cat is an evil monster wanting to kill them, or with the characters in The Lobster, who struggle with an oppressive system that forces them to find romantic partners and turns them into animals if they don't. Or a family in The Killing of a Sacred Deer, who succumb to a godlike teenager who decides who will live and who will die. The common trait is their conformity. They don't try to take a swing at the rules themselves, but instead strive to navigate the complex systems of their world and carve out a tiny space of comfort within it. It's no coincidence that Yorgos Lanthimos comes from Greece, as time and time again he reaches back to the ancient philosopher Plato's allegory of a cave. He reminds us that we don't see the world as it is. We perceive it through the distorted lens of social concepts. What's even worse, the social norms not only regulate what we think, but also how we feel. Our very idea of love comes from an artificial construct imposed on us by society. Take The Lobster, a film set in a world where it's illegal to be single. Upon being left by his wife, the protagonist, David, ends up in a retreat for a group of singles who face a very heavy dilemma. Either they can find a partner, or they can be turned into animals.
Now, the fact that you'll turn into an animal if you fail to fall in love with someone during your stay here is not something that should upset you.
Built upon this hilarious premise, The Lobster is a critique of society's obsession with love. We're so afraid of being alone that often we settle for someone who barely meets the criteria. Our main character is so desperate to find a partner that he decides to pursue a relationship with a psychopath.
I killed your brother. I left him to die very slowly.
He goes to great lengths to convince her that he lacks empathy too, making her believe that they're a perfect match.
I think we are a match.
Yes, I think so too.
Only to fail miserably when she butchers his dog to test him.
I knew you were lying. I can't understand why you did it.
In The Lobster, each individual is reduced to one defining characteristic, like suffering from random nosebleeds, having psychopathic tendencies, or being short-sighted. The characters are expected to find their partner based on a social rule that only people who share the same characteristic are fit to be with each other. The tragic irony is that they can't ever escape their conditioning. Even after finding real love, the downfall of the characters comes in following the social construct of love imposed on them and believing that for love to work, they need to be similar to each other. What Lanthimos wants us to realize is just how artificial our own concept of love often is. And we succumb to these norms and impose them on others due to our desire for control. We have a desperate need to exert power over the world around us, and the protagonist of The Killing of a Sacred Deer serves as a symbol of that drive. In the beginning, Stephen is a godlike figure, enforcing power over the people around him.
He's got surgery in the morning. He needs to get some sleep.
It's still early.
We've got surgery in the morning.
Fine, okay.
His own family,
Bob, you promised me you'd get a haircut. You still haven't done it.
I'll get a haircut.
Tomorrow.
and, as a surgeon, over the life or death of his patients. Even his wife is sexually attracted to him only when she plays motionless, surrendering to him completely. All this ends when a teenager, Martin, decides to punish him for his past misdeeds.
Just like you killed a member of my family, now you gotta kill a member of your family to balance things out, understand?
We observe Stephen's struggle to regain control over the situation, and in many ways, his clash with Martin serves as a symbol of the human aspiration to conquer nature, illness, or even death. But equally interesting is the behavior of Stephen's family. When faced with Martin's mysterious power, they accept their fate and succumb to him completely.
I don't know if what is happening is fair, but it's the only thing I can think of as close to justice. Have a good day.
Stephen's daughter's relationship with Martin is almost religious. She stays loyal and obedient, even when he threatens to kill her. Why does she do that? Martin gives her a sense of peace, something to hold on to among all the chaos that surrounds her.
You really think that's possible?
Here is where Yorgos Lanthimos uncovers the most bitter truth about our nature. The idea of a supernatural power governing our actions is so common in our culture because it makes us feel safe, even if the power exerted on us is cruel and ruthless. The fact that it makes our existence predictable is enough for us to succumb to it completely. These two inseparable components, fear and the need for control, are what make us succumb to oppressive political systems. The family in Dogtooth serve as a small-scale portrait of a fascist rule. All the key elements are here: the tyrannical dictators, controlling the information,
Θάλασσα είναι η δερμάτινη πολυθρόνα με τα ξύλινα μπράτσα σαν αυτή που έχουμε στο σαλόνι.
instigating fear of security, and channeling aggression towards false enemies. The film was meant to be political, as it was made by Lanthimos during a time when a fascist party was on the rise in Greece. But it also presents an unsettling commentary on societies all around the world, because much of the world, in a way, is trained just like the teenagers in Dogtooth. The power of Lanthimos' films lies in that they are so bizarre, yet so very true. The visual terror he creates is consequential and systemic, and it serves one rule. You can't see the absurdity of your own world until you crank up the weirdness to the point beyond scale.
People in reality as well follow completely absurd rules, and people just don't question. It's like that's how it's done and that's the way it is. And when you distance yourself, you can realize how absurd some of the things that we consider normal are.
Through a creative use of shock, Lanthimos gained international acclaim, which in turn earned him the trust of producers and the freedom to pursue his creative vision. Poor Things truly looks like a live-action reenactment of a Salvador Dali painting. At first glance, it seems to tap into the same odd, well-established style of weirdness. But upon closer look, it cleverly subverts our expectations. This time, we don't get to visit an alien world with weird rules that remind us about our own similar, absurd social systems that govern our lives. This time, the freaky reality we watch on screen is no alien world, but our very own. Just seen from the warped perspective of a child in an adult female's body. It does get super weird at times. But it all serves one vital reason. Lanthimos builds the story on a simple premise. What would happen if a cunning scientist puts an infant's brain into her mother's head?
Jesus.
Following Bella on screen, we get amazed, surprised, and shocked. All the whimsical and distorted set designs and cinematography serve to mimic the experience of a child. Through Bella's adventures, we watch a portrait of well-established social norms as seen by a complete outsider. The freshness of her perspective lies in her naivete. Unlike us, she has not gone through the process of learning to believe that social rules are set in stone. This allows her to question, undermine, and analyze these things, these social rules that we don't challenge ourselves. and some of her observations are uniquely spot on.
I have adventured it and found nothing but sugar and violence. It is most charming. I am fine.
Bella matures while still retaining her unspoiled perspective. The plot serves as a poignant representation of social pressure on women, making the whole piece not only visually stunning, but also politically informed. But something is off about that picture. Watching Poor Things, you may notice that despite all the visual weirdness, the world it depicts feels strangely comfortable. Bella walks in a world where there's no danger and no discomfort. Yes, some characters want to take advantage of her, but she embraces it with her arms wide open.
Bella not safe with you, I think.
You are, absolutely not.
Even when we visit a brothel in Paris, violence and abuse are absent. There is mention that
some men enjoy that you do not like it.
What?
Sick, but good business.
which she accepts without questioning. 2 hours into the movie, the first threat is introduced. Bella's about to lose her sexual organs, to which she simply reacts by killing her oppressive husband and giving his body to a sheep's brain. Well, that is quite cruel, both towards the husband and the animal, but still, Bella feels no remorse. She even keeps her husband-sheep thing as a trophy. Because all in all, there's only one rule governing Bella's world. All evil disappears when you just don't look at it, or simply accept the cruelty. Frankly, it's quite puzzling. Because on a surface level, Poor Things seems to be a film about liberation from social constraints, but it also feels so shallow and superficial. But when you go deeper, you notice that Poor Things is a satire. Bella emancipates only through sex. And like other Lanthimos characters, she never really questions the rules of her world, or our world, to be precise. She simply carves out her own bubble of comfort within it, because it could be that Bella is us. The consumers watching the film, sitting comfortably in our air-conditioned apartments. Like Bella, we live our lives for our own pleasure and satisfaction. Whenever our bubble gets punctured and some fresh air gets in, we do feel a momentary sting of empathy towards those less privileged, or even a brief outburst of rage towards inequality. But we pay it off with a generous donation and move on with our lives, conforming to the rules, and always seeking our own comfort.
I gave it to those poor people out there. Money is its own form of sickness.
The deeper we dive into the absurd realities of Yorgos Lanthimos, we realize that they are not mad. We are. We created a mad world with mad rules. It just seems normal to us, and what's even worse, we've grown complacent within it. Surprisingly, the apparent bluntness of Poor Things is perhaps what makes it the most meaningful of all his work. We're so used to watching serious and dramatic films about evil and injustice. Films that don't change anything, which provoke no further actions. By luring us with a tale seeking comfort and exploring emancipation, Lanthimos strips down the true shallowness of contesting inequality when done from a place of comfort and privilege, giving us a wake-up call we may not want, but one we need and deserve.
We are all cruel beasts, born that way, die that way.